I fully recognize what I'm getting into. I know that this market is passionate about the game. I know that there's an educated group of you folks that have opinions, and but I wouldn't want it any other way. I think to have the opportunity to work in this market that cares about this team, that is passionate about the game, that wants to win, that's totally switched on, I can't ask for a better situation.
Ah, yes, the positivity and hope from Trevor Linden 4.5 years ago. Yes, it has been washed away. Yesterday it was announced that Linden's time as Canucks team president has come to an end in what was described as an amicable split. Canucks owner Francesco Aquilini rattled off a series of tweets after the announcement, but one of his key and probably telling messages was, "A rebuild is a long, slow, gradual process. Everybody needs to be united behind the same vision and pulling in the same direction."
Canucks GM Jim Benning and head coach Travis Green held a news conference, or at least a conference call, a short time ago. And Benning told reporters that the team is not looking to hire a replacement for Linden, so he will lead the hockey operations department moving forward. And as we did with the Toronto Blue Jays in their deal, Twitter not reacting very well in Vancouver and among Canucks fans on Twitter to that news, because they get the likable Trevor Linden gone and Jim Benning now as the face of the franchise, along with Travis Green.
I wonder what the scene is like outside Rogers Arena. Hopefully everybody's at the beach, at Kitts Beach or something, as we welcome in Sportsnet.ca's Iain MacIntyre. And Iain, the wording is very interesting to me. Amicable split. For some reason, I'm not buying it. What are your thoughts?
Well, they did spell amicable correctly, but other than that, I'm not sure it's entirely accurate. If it was so amicable, there wouldn't have been a split at all, because really the worst for this franchise in terms of its rebuild is probably behind it. I'm not sure that we're going to see more wins this season, but we're going to see more hope. There's going to be more young players in the lineup, and I think fans will be excited about the team. And that's why the timing of this departure carries such intrigue, because if this was going to happen, we would have thought it would have happened 2 years ago, 1 year ago, not now.
So in the past, and I know that Carolyn spent some time in Vancouver, and you know the market as well as anybody out there, but in the past there have been suggestions that the Aquilini ownership is not willing to put in the long-term rebuild. Is that the basis behind this? Is that the commonality? Because I look at the cupboard, and whereas 2, maybe 3 years ago, it was near bare, I think that Linden's done a pretty good job restocking.
Yeah, in terms of prospect acquisition and development, this franchise has never been as deep, ever, as deep as they are right now in terms of the volume of really good prospects they have coming. So again, that's why there's a lot of questions about why this has happened now. Even a month ago at the draft, I mean, Trevor Linden was talking to other teams, getting input from other GMs about how they've rebuilt, the correct way to do it. Everything we hear publicly from Linden and Jim Benning, and even on occasion Francesco Aquilini, the managing owner, when he does speak publicly, they've all been on the same page about this rebuild underway, that the team is on the right path, that this is a necessary program that they've undertaken given where they were 4 years ago. And yet here we are today, Trevor Linden, one of the most beloved I was going to say players, but one of the most beloved figures in Vancouver in modern history, out as president, and everyone wondering what's next. Now, according to the team, what's next is not a lot different than what we've seen. But when you lose the head of your hockey operations, there's already that report from Elliot Friedman about Dean Lombardi being in the mix. When you make these kind of changes, there's a trickle-down effect. So there is a lot of uncertainty right now.
It seems that fans, too, on social media, from what we can read, is they're behind Linden because he is their guy. He is that figure. But he didn't have any front office experience headed into this job 4.5 years ago. Do you think he was really prepared for what was to come?
He said he was, and Trevor spent his entire career in this market and in fact could have gone to work for other teams before he came to work for the Canucks, but this was the only organization he wanted to work for. I got to think that he knew what was in store, and that maybe just the relationship over time became more strained. And it wasn't, in the end, there was probably one thing that broke the relationship, but I think there were probably a lot of things that went into it to that stage. It's interesting that you should say that the fans are behind Linden. Right now they are. They were behind Linden recently, but they had pitchforks and torches in their hands. I think really what people are behind is the idea that this franchise does need to rebuild. And the implication of a change at this time is that maybe ownership is having other ideas. Maybe the Aquilini family is not willing to wait another 2 or 3 years or whatever it takes for these prospects to develop. I think that is what really makes people uneasy, because this rebuild was overdue. There's been a lot of pain in the market the last 3 years. And there's finally light at the end of the tunnel with the prospects they have coming. People want to see that continue. And really, that's what makes sense for the Canucks right now.
I love the fact that you're powering through public transit with a great deal of success. Let me ask you this, because I was watching the run that Vegas made last year and thinking how many owners were pissed off at the fact that this first-year franchise was going as far as they were. And I wonder in the back of my head if Francesco Aquilini and their ownership group was thinking among the same things. But this doesn't hurt Trevor Linden's kind of West Coast hockey royalty label. Like, I mean, he didn't even need this job, or at least the money on this job. I don't even know if he works another job in hockey. Does he?
He may not, again, because he is so tied emotionally to this franchise. It's hard to picture him going somewhere else to take another job in management, and certainly I don't think that's going to happen in the near future. It wouldn't surprise me if Trevor Linden does spend the rest of his time in Vancouver as a businessman, as an entrepreneur. He's been very successful at those things, so you're right. He didn't need this job, and that's what puts him in a position where if he feels the relationship is untenable, that he's in a position to walk away. But other people like Jim Benning, Travis Green, who are left behind, a lot of others, the player development program under Ryan Johnson has been completely rebuilt. The scouting staff has been reorganized. There's a lot of people who have made it into their position because Trevor Linden had his. And now Trevor Linden is gone, and we're just going to have to wait and see what happens to everybody else along the way.
Well, more time for family and for cycling for Trevor Linden.
Yes.
Iain, we really appreciate the time.
Lovely being on with you guys.